What about our heroes of the Christian faith? What about our heroes? Are they our heroes because they avoided suffering? No. Our Christian heroes aren't elevated because they lived cushy lives. They're our heroes because they suffered, and in the midst of their suffering, they glorified God. I love what Paul says in Galatians 2:20. He says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. It's beautiful. The song A Mighty Fortress was written by Martin Luther. There's a couple of phrases in there that I don't know, convict me. Let goods and kindred go, this mortal life also. The body they may kill, God's truth abideth still. His kingdom is forever. So a lot of the messaging we hear in our culture is this: live your best life now. And sadly, that phrase, live your best life now, sometimes creeps into the church. No wonder when seasons like COVID come around, everyone's mental health, everyone just kind of falls apart, right? Because if that's the goal, to live your best life now, if now doesn't look all that good, you've got nothing to hope for. You've got nothing to look forward to. But the good news of the gospel is this: it's not calling us to live our best life now, but to lay down our lives. The message of the gospel is not find as much satisfaction with the world and with your current circumstances as possible. That's what the world teaches. You've got to find satisfaction with your circumstances and where you are. And we could see how fickle and how brittle that type of perspective really is. It falls apart so easily. But the gospel is, in whatever circumstance you are in, find your complete satisfaction in God. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 17. I love this verse because it's all about the armor of warfare. This armor of spiritual warfare that the faithful wear. Think about that. Like, we wear spiritual armor. What does that tell you? That tells you we are in a fight. It tells you that things are going to come our way and our spiritual armor is there to protect us. But do you know we have a weapon in the spiritual armor? It's the sword. You know what the sword is called? Verse 17, the sword of the Spirit. So what that means is, we're not the ones doing the fighting. God is. The Holy Spirit is doing the fighting. So when you come to the table, when you receive the gospel, when you see the good news, or when you receive the good news by grace, you believe everything that Jesus has offered you, guess what your reaction is? I'm going to give you everything, God. There's a point in your faith where you realize it's an honor to give everything you have to Jesus Christ. Every thought, every action, every motivation, every relationship. We get to put all that in joy on the table and say, Jesus, these are yours. I just read through a book about a missionary named Adoniram Judson. I don't know if you guys have heard of Adoniram. And it's a spectacular story. And the selfless service of the church throughout the centuries, guys, should encourage us in a powerful way. The life of Adoniram Judson's kind of, it was in the 1840s, and like everybody dies. You know, everyone's constantly dying. Like do we have a real concept of how hard life was back then? Probably not. But missionaries like Adoniram Judson served God in joy. Doesn't mean he didn't struggle, doesn't mean he didn't suffer, but he gave it all to Jesus. Romans 12:1, and this is our last verse this morning. Romans 12:1 says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This," I like this part, "this is your true and proper worship." Grace is free. But then, out of love for what God has done for us, we can give it all away. And we can do it in joy.